Welcome back, Tales of Glory listeners. We welcome you back. We have our 2 dogs and we have our 5 listeners. Hey, I want to welcome you guys all back. I know you guys have been following along with the interior castle. Some great stuff going on here. We're now entering into all the cool stuff regarding mystical theology and how God comes to us in prayer. Remember, prayer is a two-way dialogue. So stuff's starting to get exciting. We have some very subtle stuff, some very difficult stuff to discuss here, what these experiences are. But again, I want to thank you guys for following along and joining us back here. I'm trying to keep very true to everything that St. Teresa of Avila is outlining in her books. Like she said, she's beseeching the Lord, and she's trying to give us an understanding as she, the best of her abilities and best the Holy Spirit can help her explain to it, of what's occurring when God shows up in her mind, these mystical experiences. So this stuff's been very exciting. Good stuff. I'm excited about it. I love this stuff. Absolutely incredible. Like I said, I call this stuff the Contemporary English Edition. As I go through and read, I'm reading through 3 different volumes here. What have I got here? I have a PDF file I've been using. And I also use the Kindle, the Kavanaugh. And I'm also using this book here as my guide to go through these. And what's interesting is when you're doing it, I'm not trying to do a new translation on this. I'm trying to do a contemporary English version, because a lot of times these academic guys jump in here and they'll translate it word for word, but the meaning is lost when we do it word for word that way. It's very difficult. I want to preserve her thoughts. So sometimes one little stupid little paragraph may take me an hour doing research, going back and forth between translations, going, oh, this is what she's saying. Because I want to preserve her thoughts in this. And sometimes it's very hard to come across. It's very dry reading when the academics do it, because there's such beauty and poetry. And let's face it, she's romantic, right? She was a romance novelist when she was 16, wasn't it, right? Her history, she was writing these little trashy romance novels. But she's also romantic at heart, and this comes across when she starts speaking, so you can't do this dry academic translation. We have to keep her theology intact, her Catholic beliefs intact, and everything she was when she wrote this. I don't want to deviate. Like I said, I'm not a Marianist, I'm not Catholic, but what she wrote was dead on. I don't care if you're Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, whatever. If you're Christian, what she wrote here was dead on mystical prayer. And unfortunately, it's a scary word for us now. What mystical prayer is, it's just, like I said, some of these charismatics ran off. Oh, ding, ding, ding. It's going to be a drinking game, right? Ding, ding, ding. Mike said charismatic again. A lot of these charismatics that ran off call themselves mystics. I'm mystical Mike. I'm mystical something of this, and it's loony. Because all a mystic is somebody that truly loves Jesus with all their heart, mind, and strength. That's a mystic, okay? And that's what she's describing here. And when you truly love God with all your heart, mind, and strength, he kind of comes to us and he interacts with us. Our brains are set up for this. We were created in his image. What was it? Genesis 1:26, we'll create him like us. There's some interesting stuff there. I've been having some new revelation too. New revelation on old real material as I go through some of the stuff on who we are and work on these things. I've been reading Michael Heiser, The Unseen Realm, mind blower stuff. Good stuff. It's one of those textbooks that was written in contemporary English. I love it. We're doing this stuff now, right? But he's a PhD and he's explained a lot of the angelic realms and stuff. It's been as the Hebrew text explains it, as a Second Temple person explained it, but I don't want to deviate here. But a lot of this stuff's coming into play here too, because I'm just trying to give you guys straight up information, not trying to change anything, not trying to give you guys some Gnostic or some insight, only Mike has or something. If stuff comes up and it resonates and it belongs here, then I'll inject the stuff here. A lot of stuff doesn't, and I want to throw it out and trash it. A lot of stuff I mark. Anyhow, again, we're on Interior Castle, Fourth Mansions, Chapter 2. And if you guys have been listening to all my 6 longtime listeners, I get a phone call here. Long time listener, first time caller, Mike. Maybe I'll do that later on. I'm getting better and better at this, right? Notice the audio sounds better? Oh my gosh. I have a new iMac. New to me, it's iMac 2013. I went and got it on Craigslist because my old iMac was a 2011. And I'm a hardware hacker, computer hacker at heart, and I was ready to rip that thing apart. I had the processor set. I was ready to give it an upgrade to 3.4 gigahertz i7 core on my 2011 iMac. And I was about ready to upgrade the video memory in the iMac and do all sorts of surgery. No, I won't fix your computer. Don't call me. But there was a 50% chance of that, even with our skills, it would have died. So I go, I'm not going to waste my money on that. I'm just going to buy a closer generation Mac that run Catalina rather than run Mac OS High Sierra. But so now I got the Focusrite, we got an audio mixing board, we've got the Shure 7B, we've got a Cloud Lifter microphone. A lot of you guys have been helping out financially. I appreciate it. Guys, this is where the money's going. When you help out financially, slowly by slowly, you're going to see this thing improve. That's what it is. There's a lot of money invested into this. And I so appreciate you guys, you wanting this material. But like I said, too, I also started on a field guide to advanced spiritual warfare. I'm going to be doing that, too, as something interjecting back and forth. And I got to go through my own material, and I'm kind of like liking stuff and not liking stuff I wrote. So I'm going to be correcting myself. Wow, I'll ridicule myself here. See, Mikey ridicules himself. I won't be doing that, but I want to go through the material, and as I had new revelation or new experiences through the supernatural, what may have shifted me this way or that way, and that doesn't work anymore. I want to just keep you guys up to speed on what I know, and I want to get study guides out. So after Fourth Mansions Chapter 2, I will jump over and do another chapter of a field guide to advanced spiritual warfare, which I found was no easy task either to vacillate into a podcast, but I'm going to do it for you guys because I want this information out here. It needs to be out, right? We're in end times events here. God may be coming tomorrow. Jesus may return tomorrow in a cloud of witnesses, or maybe 300 years off. I don't know, but we're seeing the occult move, and the Christians need to know how to address that farther along than we have these current deliverance books, which are not helping at all. I think they're holding more people back. Anyhow, so those of you who have joined and are also following the Field Guide mini-series, thank you so much. And right now, let's return back to Interior Castle Fourth Mansions. These are all coupled, by the way. I don't know if you guys are picking up on my theology here, but these are coupled. I'm going to become more open to spiritual warfare as I experience stuff and why this stuff is coupled. But nothing matters more than love Jesus with all your heart and mind and strength. Nothing matters more than that right now. And that's why we're diving into St. Teresa. If you want to learn spiritual warfare, you got to be a contemplative prayer warrior, right? You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. That's what you're talking to Jesus, right? And that's what she's all about. Years ago, I had weird experiences. Probably over 10 years ago, I had weird experiences, which were going back to my mind, go, why on earth am I still here? Why didn't Satan just wipe me out? Because the stuff I've been seeing, experiencing. And Jesus goes, well, I need you to go deeper in me. And I didn't know who this lady was. And this is something God kind of showed me, which is weird. I think human thoughts or something like that. I don't know what it was. It was weird, but I was kind of aware of her, but I knew who she was. I thought she was kind of this weird lady. She was floating around the church or something. Like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to deal with it. God, I got enough weird stuff of my own to deal with. I don't even be reading about some nun who floated around the church. Right? And I jumped into the Sixth Mansion, right? We'll discuss that too. But yeah, stick with me on this. This is not weird. There's actually purpose to this. God does weird stuff when he loves you so much. He'll just come give you some crazy graces. So let's roll some of this bean footage here. Where's those PowerPoints? PowerPoints keep me on place here. That's why I usually do them. I hope you guys find the PowerPoints beneficial too. So on the YouTube video are the PowerPoints. If you're listening on a podcast, that's where you'll find them. Go to Michael Norton YouTube and you'll find them there. Also, a field guide to spiritual warfare.blogspot.com hosts the podcast and the YouTube videos you're looking for them. So here we are. St. Teresa of Avila's Interior Castle, Fourth Mansions, Chapter 2, Divine Consolations. Cool stuff going on here. Super cool stuff. Mansions 4, Chapter 2 overview. St. Teresa continues the same subject, explaining by comparison in what divine consolations are, and we should prepare ourselves to receive them without endeavoring to receive them, right? Okay, we talked about that last time. Prepare ourselves to receive them, but don't beg Jesus to receive them. It's kind of a detachment thing here. We'll talk about her. Here she defines a prayer of quiet. This is interesting. I was always thrown off by this. I wasn't raised Catholic, but actually I was. Sorry about that. I went through catechism, went through everything. And just, to me, a prayer of quiet is this something I'm supposed to be praying? And she's talking about the opposite of prayer of quiet, where Jesus comes to us, right? And why is it called prayer of quiet? Because that is our bi-directional communication with God, is prayer. If I'm praying, I'm talking to Jesus, and through this prayer thing, he's not worshiping Mike. Oh, great Mike. Oh, no, that's not how it works. The way we commune is through prayer. We worship and adore him, and he loves us back. And sometimes he'll talk to us. Sometimes he'll do stuff with us. It's how he works. We are crossing a supernatural realm into the spirit realm to communicate with him. And I'm not talking about having seances. Nope, not like, oh, I feel God's here. God, if you're here, give us a sign. I'm not talking about that. In fact, we're going to weed out a lot of the weird stuff. This is normal prayer she's talking about, deep normal prayer, where you're just in love with Jesus, and that it just flows through your prayer that you love him. So St. Teresa also gives us her best effort to describe first and second hand experiences with infused prayer. This stuff is not easy. I experienced some of this stuff myself, and I'm going to try to take a crack at it at the very end. And I was searching days or even weeks as I preparing this stuff. How do I explain this stuff? How do I explain the experiences I've had? Some of them, as I read hers, okay, I get it, but it doesn't explain anything either. But I try to do my better hand at this in a contemporary English version, and it's not going to be easier, but I'll try my best to explain the prayer of quiet at the end of her works, just so we have a frame of reference. Because, like we said, if you've passed through the third mansion, I actually experienced probably this fourth mansion experience as a grace from God. Probably I was in my second mansions. God showed me something here. I didn't know what the heck was that. Like she said, we could experience things out of order, and I experienced it quite several times after that. So I'll explain it in the best of my ability after we go through her explanation. Again, mansions 4, we're in the second waters. Second waters are mystical. The soul in the fourth mansions is now in the beginning states of mystical prayer using St. Teresa of Avila's second waters analogy. Her watering of the soul takes place with the gardener installing a water wheel and aqueducts, right? So we're getting more mechanics installed to help us pump the prayer water. More water is attained with less effort during prayer. Being in deeper mansions, the soul encounters God. The faculties are supernaturally stilled by God, and the will is driven by its desire to love him who dwells deeper inside, right? So he's captivating the will. We're having union of wills happening in the fourth mansions, right? Our will wants to go towards God's will. The soul encounters a new type of prayer, which is the beginning of a mystical prayer experiences, and she calls it the prayer of quiet. And we'll discuss that. Mansions 4, Chapter 2, Divine Consolations. She begins the subject of mystical prayer, introduces a new experience in prayer that originates from God. This is a special grace from God, where the will is captivated by the presence of God, and the faculties of the mind are suspended in a gentle and loving absorption in the presence of God. Right? Absorptions when we're captivated, like, wow, okay, I'm in deep prayer, and all my mind is focused on God. Whether he's showing me something, there's an absorption going on there, right? I'm just totally immersed in God. Or he's showing me something, he's talking to me, or I'm just dead quiet and just feeling his presence, okay? That is an absorption. As we advance in mystical prayer, we must learn to be more flexible than we were with our previous style of meditation and fighting off distractions, right? We're not fighting off the shopping list. We're not fighting off, oh man, I have 3 paint swatches on my wall. Which one would I like the best to paint my room? In the middle of prayer, like, no, wait, I gotta fight that off. I'm not looking at paint swatches right now. I'm trying to focus on Jesus, back to Jesus in prayer, right? Because our mind wanders. It's just human. We were created in the image of God, but we're lesser than him. We're lesser than God in our creation. So we tend to be imperfect in our thinking as Jesus is perfect, okay? So that's why we have distractions. We're fighting them off. We're not perfect. Some Teresan definitions. Prayer of quiet or infused contemplation, a mystical experience in prayer where God captivates the will with love and suspends the faculties in his presence. Absorption, we talked about that, the temporary state of the soul and faculties during the mystical prayer of quiet experience, okay? It's just totally absorbed by him, like a sponge. Wow, I can feel Jesus right now. Oh my God, it feels awesome. What incredible. He's here, I can totally feel him. That's a state of absorption. And here we go. Mansions 4, Chapter 2, Paragraph 1. Physical results of sensible devotion. God help me. I have forgiven what I was writing about, right? She had a pause since she wrote about this. My occupation and my poor health forced me to put off my writing until a more suitable time. My memory is not so great these days, and I don't have the time to read over what I had previously written. So this may all come off as a bit confusing. At least that is my concern. I do recall saying that the spiritual consolations are occasionally connected with our passions, right? Don't think much, love much. Remember that? These feelings of devotion produce fits of sobbing. I have even heard that sometimes they cause a compression of the chest and uncontrollable exterior emotions violent enough to cause bleeding at the nose and other painful effects. A clear description of, to me that sounds like an attack of hysteria. I just put the note there because when the prayer of quiet comes on, it's been very subtle. And other people I've talked with too, it's been a very subtle thing. She's talking about a secondhand thing where people talk about they had these uncontrollable fits. I think that was something not God, but In her, bless her, in her good heart, she was recording everything she was observing with other people. So to me, it doesn't sound like when God's going to give you prayer quiet, he's going to give you a bloody nose or some violent thing. You know, I think sometimes people with issues can go to an attack of hysteria. So I think she's talking about this here, and she wasn't quite sure herself, just the way the tone is, but she's recording it. Okay, so God bless her. She's recording everything she's seeing. Let's go into her experience because it's gentle. Effects of divine consolations. I have nothing to contribute on this condition. I never experienced anything like this myself, but there must be some comfort in it, because, as I said, all leads a deeper desire to please God and enjoy being in his presence. What I call divine consolations, or what I've also referred to elsewhere as a prayer of quiet, is an entirely different thing. Those who experience this prayer by the mercy of God will clearly understand. Okay, so she's separating those experiences from the prayer of quiet. Good for her. The two fountains. To make the matter clear, let us imagine we see two fountains with basins which fill with water. I can find no other better metaphor than that of water to explain spiritual things. As I am very ignorant and have poor wits to help me here, there she goes again, I love this element of water so much I have studied it more attentively than other things. In all the things created by our great and mighty God, he has no doubt hidden things in all his creation from which we can spiritually profit. Consider, for example, one of God's small creations, the tiny ant. There are so many wonders in it, it's beyond comprehension. Here she is as a contemplative, right? She's looking at the grass, she's looking at ants. Like, oh my God, look at this marvel that God has created, right? That's what she's doing here. Regarding my analogy of the two water basins, these two basins fill in different ways. The first basin is filled from water flowing over a distance, carried by pipes and waterworks on an aqueduct, from human ingenuity, right? So this is a third mansion's prayer, right? We're doing all the work. We put in the waterworks. We put in the work. We put in the aqueduct. Things are flowing. Remember back then, I didn't really understand this. I'm going to start teaching this stuff in the third mansion. And then God knocks you down with the pride. That's what she's talking about. While the second basin is built near the source of the spring itself and fills without noise. Okay, this is mystical now, right? This is fourth mansion. If the fountain has a plentiful source, the basin will eventually fill and spill over and form that will flow a continuous great stream of water. No machinery is needed here, nor does the stream flow through any aqueducts. It just flows. This is something that now God's helping us, right? God's helping us with prayer. Paragraph 4. They symbolize two kinds of prayer. Using the water basin analogy, this is the difference between the two kinds of prayer. The water running through the aqueduct is our sensible devotion, right? Which comes through our own meditation and prayer. Right, it starts in us. We're doing this, right? It's us. Third mansion's prayer, sensible devotion. We talked about that. We gain it by our thoughts, by meditating on the wonders of creation through the labor of our minds. In short, it is a result of our own efforts, our own pipes and aqueducts, where our soul profits as the basins fill. She's describing here, very poetically and metaphorically, third mansion prayer. Third mansion meditation, which is called sensible devotion, right? We could sense things, we could feel things going on a little bit, but it starts in us. We could cry a little bit, we could feel something tingly, but it's something that starts in us, right? So it's sensible devotion. The other fountain is divine consolations, where the source of the water is God himself. When he wills it, we are granted a supernatural favor where we experience the greatest quiet and peace and sweetness in the innermost depths of our being. I don't know where or how this arises. So divine consolations is mystical prayer. Sensible devotion is third mansion's prayer. Paragraph 5. Divine consolations shared by our body and soul. This supernatural joy is not immediately felt by the heart. After our basin is filled to the brim with delight, it overflows through all the mansions and the faculties, and then it reaches our body. Therefore I say, it starts from God and ends in us. Very important there. That's mystical. Starts in God and ends in us. Anyone who has experienced this will find that our whole natural physical being will be sharing its delight and sweetness. As I write this, I am again reminded of the verse, Thou hast dilated my heart, from Psalm 119, verse 32, declares that the heart is enlarged. It's dilated, right? Something mystically enlarges our heart. Let's look more at this. Paragraph 5 continued. This joy does not appear to me to originate in the heart, but in some more interior part and, as it were, in the depths of our being. I think this must be the center of the soul, as I have since learned and will explain later on. I discover secrets within us which often fill me with astonishment. How much more must there be unknown to me? O my Lord and my God, how stupendous is thy grandeur. More in paragraph 5. We are like naive little children. We think we know something about ourselves. We soon learn there are profound, deep secrets of ourselves we can't comprehend at all. We know comparatively nothing of the secrets that are inside of us. When I say comparatively nothing, I'm comparing it to the great mysteries in us that we can learn from through our works. Right? She's talking about as she prays and does her works, works for God, we'll start discovering things about ourselves we didn't know before. That's what she's referring to here. Paragraph 6. The incense within the soul. To return to the verse I quoted, which may help to explain the dilation begun by the heavenly waters that rise up from the depths of our being, right? So these are whatever's happening, it's rising up inside us, okay? This mystical experience rising up inside us. They supernaturally expand, dilate, and enlarge us in our interior and benefit our spiritual growth in an inexplicable manner. So God's rising up something inside us, right? He's expanding us supernaturally. That's one thing to catch here. The soul itself may never even comprehend what it is receiving. It is conscious of what may be described as a certain fragrance, as if within its most depths were a brazier, that's a metal pan for burning coals, sprinkled with sweet perfumes. Okay, so it's like this beautiful fragrance burning up, right? From God's little brazier, he's bringing a fragrance up. Kind of get the wording she's using here, because it's so subtle. She's using would it be 16th century terminology? What do you think? You're thinking like a fragrance is floating up, right? It's like a smoky fragrance coming up. It smells good. It's a sweet perfume. Just describing something supernatural, right? That's kind of a good analogy, and I'll try to back this up with some of my experiences on this to reinforce what she's saying here. But it's kind of dead on. So paragraph 6 continued. Although the spirit neither sees the flame nor knows where it is, yet it is penetrated by the warmth and scented fumes, which are even sometimes perceived by the body. Please understand, the soul does not feel any heat or scent, but something far more subtle, which I use as metaphor to explain. Let those who have never experienced it believe that this experience in prayer really happens. The soul is conscious of it and feels it is more distinctly than it can be expressed. It is not a thing we can desire or gain or by anything we could do in our prayer meditations. Okay, let's back up the train a bit. Please understand the soul does not feel any real heat or scent, but something more subtle. The reason I highlighted this, underlined it, because that's the words I want you to catch, more subtle. She's talking about a scent or a brazier burning up scents. It's not a heat. It's more like, feel like this interior cloud coming up, right? It's just something, it's moving and it's very subtle. And let those who have never experienced it believe that this experience in prayer really happens. Okay, right? So she's having a hard time explaining it, but just bear with her. She's saying, bear with me, this stuff really happens. The soul is conscious of it and feels it more distinctly than can be expressed, right? It's the soul that receives it first. Remember she talked about the faculties in the soul is feeling this. It is not a thing we can desire, okay? We can't go and pray for it. Jesus, give me this prayer of quiet. I want the prayer of quiet. That's what we're taught in certain circles, right? That's not humility. That doesn't live. That's kind of like the little spoiled brat in the mall, right? Give me this, give me this, give me this. We can't do that. We want to let Jesus just love us, and Jesus goes, hey, here's a package right here. Unwrap this. Wow, there it is, the prayer of quiet. So it's nothing we can gain by prayer. We could be stuck in the third mansions for years and not receive this, right? Or you could, like I said, I got mine for some weird reason in the second mansions. I didn't experience again for a while. They seem to be separated, and so other stuff's still going on my spiritual growth, but I've had just a season where I was experiencing them and they kind of went away. So I think it was kind of something God's drawing me into or tried working on. So I'll explain what these feel like. It is what it is, right? God doesn't take it away, but just like, hey, I want some more of that. Or maybe I experience it now in a different matter and I don't understand it yet. That always happens too. And probably after I broadcast this and wrap it up and send it like, oh, wait a minute, that was that. It's hard. It's really hard to do. I have to have conversations with Jesus on this one. Paragraph 6 continued. Clearly, It does not arise from the base of human forged metal, but from the most pure gold of divine wisdom. I believe that in the case of the powers of the soul are not united to God, but are absorbed and astounded at the marvel before them, right? I am maybe possibly be contradicting what I wrote elsewhere, nor will this be surprising for what was done about 15 years ago. And she has a small footnote or something. Maybe it was 14 years ago, as she described in chapter 1 of the First Mansions. And perhaps God has given me since then a clear insight into the matter. I may be entirely mistaken on the subject, both then and now, but never do I willfully say what is untrue. So she says, I'm not lying to you. I'm not going to, wrap something up that isn't. I'm going to give it to you straight up, which is why I love this lady. She just tells it like it is. If she can't describe it, she can't describe it. And if she can describe it, she'll take a crack at it and goes, hey, I tried. I beseeched the Lord. That's the best I could do. When she always says I'm half-witted or something, she can't explain it. It's funny. But she does. She puts a disclaimer in there if she can't explain it properly. She's awesome. Paragraph 6 continued. No, by the mercy of God, I would rather die 1,000 times than tell you a lie. Good, there it is. I am doing my best to convey what I know as I understand it. I believe that in the case, the will must in some way be united with that of God. That's what's going on in the Fourth Mansions, chapter 1 and 2. The residual effects on the soul and the resulting behavior of the person after the experience help guide us on whether this prayer was genuine or not. Okay, so what were the fruits of the prayer? What happened afterwards? And she's saying as a spiritual director, she says, what was the resulting behavior of the person? Was some behavior changed? Was she always angry about something, or something happened after the experience? What was different? Was there any fruits from it? If not, was it genuine or not? So she's saying this is the best crucible by which we could test it. What were the fruits of the experience? That's the crucible. Paragraph 7. Graces received in this prayer. A soul that recognizes what is happening at this moment is bestowed a great favor by God. And another great favor still if it does not turn back. You are longing, my daughters, to enter into the state of prayer at once, and you are right. For as I said, the soul cannot understand the value of the graces that are bestowed by God upon it, nor the love which draws him closer to it. Right? So she's saying that you may not get it at first. It's like, what in the world is going on? Because it feels like I'll describe it, like very internally misty. Well, I'm going to get more, like she said, a fragrance. But I'll explain more on that. You go first, what is this? Maybe first couple times, what's going on here? And she goes, once you catch it, oh my God, it's the prayer of quiet. I'm just going to jump in. Oh, Jesus, I got you. Prayer of quiet. Come on in. Come on in. I'm all ears. I want to be absorbed into you. That's what she's talking about. So when you recognize it, that's a grace bestowed by God. You know what this is? Jesus is here. 7 continued. We should certainly desire to learn how to obtain this favor. I will tell you what I know about it, setting aside certain cases in which God bestows his graces for no other reason than his own choice, into which we have no right to ask him why. All right, back to the thing. We can't pray to ask for this. This is how he comes love us, right? This is how he's kind of shows up in our house and goes, God, I love you. I got you a present, and it's like, here comes the prayer of quiet. Whew. If you haven't experienced it yet, again, it's not because he doesn't love you. It's because when he starts giving you the deeper stuff, he wants you in that deeper state with him. And it just means, there's something he's working with you on. Work with him where you're at with him and you understand you're at with him, right? Just don't worry about it. He may just see you trying and stuff and you're like, God, I keep falling down. What is going on here? He may give you a taste of his Fourth Mansions or something just to get you going. Be aware of that too. Just because you have a taste of it doesn't mean you're there. I learned that a long time ago. Wow, I got a Fourth Mansions experience and hey, where'd it go? Then a little bit later, as I kind of worked on stuff, it's just, I had the Fourth Mansion experiences, right? I was having them, but they're separated over distance, like months apart. I go, what is going on here? So it's how God gives them to you. It's totally for him. And only he can give them to you. You can't pray for him. Paragraph 8. Such favors not to be sought after. Practice what I advised in the preceding mansions, then humility. Humility is a path that God opens himself up to us and grants us what we ask of him. We've heard this before over and over. This is our underlying theme. Humility, right? The first proof that you possess humility is that you will not think you are worthy or deserve these graces and consolations from God, nor that you ever will as long as you live. You ask me, how shall we receive them if we do not try to gain them? right? A good question. If I don't ask for them, how do I get them? I answer that there is no surer way to obtain them than the one I have told you. Therefore, make no efforts to acquire them for the following reasons. The first is that the chief means of attaining them is to love God without self-interest. The second, that it is a slight lack of humility to think that our wretched services can win so great a reward. The third, that the real preparation for them is to desire to suffer and imitate our Lord rather than to receive consolations. For indeed we all have offended him. There she is, there she is, right? The fourth reason is that his majesty has not promised to give us these favors in the same way as he bound himself to bestow eternal glory on us if we keep his commandments, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, number 1, don't think much, love much. Number 2, humility. We're wretched souls, so we don't deserve a great reward. Third, we must imitate God to be more like him in order to receive the consolations, right? And fourth, he hasn't promised to give them to us. The only thing he promises is eternal salvation. So, like you promised, okay, so there they are, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's keep going. We can be saved without these special graces, right? You may not experience anything. You may not experience third mansions. Most likely you will. I mean, I don't see who doesn't experience the third mansion stuff, because that's in your own effort. You're going to God, but you may have some hiccups and some subtle stuff with fourth mansions, and it still means you're saved. He loves you. For some unknown reason why he doesn't give them to you, it's not like he doesn't matter to you, but you guys are in your own relationship. He sees better than we do what is best for us and which of us love him sincerely. I know for certain truth, being acquainted with him, some who walk by the way of love and therefore only seek to serve Jesus Christ crucified, that not only do they neither ask for nor desire consolation, but they even beg him not to give them to them during this life. This is a fact. Fifthly, we must not labor in vain. This water does not flow through aqueducts, like we first spoke of, and if the spring does not afford it, in vain shall we toil to obtain it. I mean that although we may meditate and try our hardest, and though we shed tears to gain it, we cannot make this water flow, right? This water comes from God. So that's pretty cool, she said. In third mansions, we laid the aqueduct, right? We're going towards God. We're praying for him. The water's flowing, but we got all these devices in place that help us pray. And it's all, we initiated all from our side. So yeah, this water she's talking about, the one that comes from God, we can meditate all day long. We can meditate and we can fast and we can hold our breath or whatever. And it only comes as God desires to give it to us. It's his decision. So interesting. Paragraph 8 continued. God alone gives it to whom he chooses. And often when the soul is least thinking of it, we are his sisters. Let him do what he will with us and lead us where he will. If we are really humble and annihilate ourselves, that means detach ourselves, die to ourselves, not death to ourselves, die to ourselves, not only in our imagination, which often deceive us, but if we can truly detach ourselves from all things, our Lord will not only grant us these favors, but many others that we do not even know how to desire. May he be forever praised and blessed. Amen. Amen. So yeah, that was interesting stuff there, right? So we don't pray to ask for it. God, give me the prayer of quiet. God, give me fourth mansion experiences. God, give me mystical experiences. It's just, he's looking at us. It's a relationship development thing, right? As we get, it's kind of like asking Jesus for his house keys. We're going to move in with you, Jesus. I know it's not a Christian thing to say, but it's kind of the same idea, right? So on the first date, you're not going to ask Jesus for the house keys to move in. I mean, some weird people here on earth do, but God's going, I don't give you my house keys, honey. I know who you are. He's not going to say, I don't know who you are. I know who you are. We got to fix you a lot first before I give you my house keys, right? So don't take things the wrong way. As long as you're praying with him and working with him, he's still working with you. So if you don't get this stuff like in 3 months or 5 years or 10 years, don't worry about it. Just look at where he's working you with, right? What is he trying to help you improve with? And he may feel you don't even need this to develop a relationship with him, right? Who knows? It may be the way he wants to have a relationship with you. Everybody else, I got this relationship where we do physical prayer, but you guys want to sit and be quiet. It's so nice to sit and be quiet with you. Practicing his presence, right? We don't know. So I have outlined here my experience with the prayer of quiet. Adding my description of the prayer of quiet, huh? Okay. I feel for St. Teresa in this one. What caught me the most was her description of how it's a fragrance, right? it just kind of like bubbles up from the interior. Um, when I had this going on, I was in deep prayer. I think we just came out of a deep worship, and then we went into prayer, and it was deep prayer. And I was just praying, and I didn't know what this was at first because I was, wasn't too keen on mystical theology. I just remember the experience, man, what was that? And she says it comes somewhere deep in the heart of the soul. Well, I felt like it came somewhere deep inside my mind. She talks about this, right? She talks about deep in the soul. Let's talk a little physics. I'm not quoting quantum physics here, but I'm just a little physics. That's the only way I explain it. Those of you who went through the math and stuff of physics, you know what a point charge is, right? A little point charge. It's like this little point charge suddenly manifests inside the head, and it's very subtle. You go, oh, something's there. And all of a sudden, and she talks about fragrance, kind of like just moves out, like very subtle. And it feels like I said, only the soul feels it. It's weird, but it's very peaceful. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like it just kind of feels like it just radiates down the head, right? It's coming down very subtle. And it's not tingly, but just feel it in the mind. You're going, wow, what is that? And it's quiet, and it just draws you up to, oh my God, it just feels so peaceful. And your will's drawn into it. Your will is immediately drawn into it. I'm glad I didn't know about meditation prayer because I would have shut it down or something, right? But like it was in the middle of deep prayer part after deep worship, and here it comes. And it's just amazing. It's like I said, she said it's a fragrance. It's the best way to describe it. But she says it comes up from the heart. It boils up. It did come somewhere deep. That's why I call it the point charge in the mind. It came from somewhere deep in the soul. I think the soul is just multidimensional spiritual. So something God entered through a door or something. I don't know how it works. And all of a sudden he's there, and it just radiates out. And your whole mind starts feeling this, like she said, it calls like a fragrance. Just imagine if there is some sort of like something radiating out, like a cloud or something, like a wave is moving outwards. And it's very gentle, and it's very peaceful. And it's just, wow, it's amazing. Okay. That's what I got for the prayer of quiet. It's the best way I can explain it. I know it's hard. It's just, it is what it is. I experienced it back when 2007, I was probably in the second mansions. I was coming up to speed really quickly. I was part of the Frozen Chosen. I was accelerating in prayer of who Jesus was. I was learning prophetic ministry. I was learning all sorts of stuff because I had to deal with the supernatural dark stuff that God put me in to play with. And I fortunately said yes to God that I will do this thing, right? And I was like a student way behind, a student 47 years behind in his studies who all of a sudden jumped in the PhD program. And I would call myself, I was getting rid of sin. I was being delivered from stuff. God was pulling stuff off me from generational curses and things like that. And there was a big healing time, but at the same time, I didn't have time to deal with a lot of stuff. I had to move forward. I had to press forward. And I went deeper in prayer. I didn't know how to pray. I knew a little bit of mental prayer. We had conversations, right? But I didn't know about deep stuff. And as I pressed myself in deeper, God started opening weird stuff to me rather quickly. And I know I was only in second mansions. But I think God just gave it to me because he needed me to persevere. And those were the rewards for persevering. It's not like, give me that. He just gave me some incredible spiritual gifts. Some of them I haven't experienced ever again. I know they're down the road. Some of the prayer quiet stuff I experience off and on, and there's a huge delta between I experience them last. So it's not like every time I pray, wow, I'm getting the prayer quiet now. It's just, when he wants to drop in, hey, Mike, how's it going? But he drops in a lot. I feel his presence. Maybe that's why I don't get that much anymore, because I do know how to practice his presence deeply. If that's the reason, I don't know. But very often on now, it's been months, maybe 6 months, maybe longer. Well, he'll do this. It's not something you get often. At least I don't experience it often. And I know it's not some sort of transcendental meditation thing or some sort of mind thing or mass delusion. It's him entering. You can just feel it. It's very personal. And like I said, I don't care what you guys think. It's just for me and him. It doesn't matter. It won't change my life or how things tomorrow. What you guys think? It's just I'm trying to help people along who've experienced this or desire to experience it. So when they catch it, like, oh my gosh, that's what that was, prayer quiet. It's very subtle, very subtle. You just kind of catch your will caught up in God all of a sudden, right? And and your soul has this sensible nature to it that's transferring the information off to the rest of the body. Like there's like some sort of wave permeating through me. I think it's a spiritual wave because I don't think it's real. It's not in our realm. Will be real, but it's coming in from somewhere else. It's supernatural. So that's the best I can explain for it. I said it occurs deep in our soul, and it just kind of slowly radiates out, and it feels really good, really, really good. And I cannot duplicate it. I've tried. I'm a scientist at heart, right? Okay, let's try duplicating this. I don't know how to duplicate that feeling. I said it just wasn't psychosynaptic triggered by worship and prayer, because I've had deep prayer and worship since then, sometimes deeper, and nothing like that occurred. Off and on. It's just, so it is what it is. That was that prayer of quiet that hit me. Yep, cool stuff. So I want to jump over now is where do we use this stuff? Is it, Mike, we even use this stuff anymore? Yes, we do. I do counseling ministry, and I work with people off and on, and it's funny. I have my colleagues who work with women too, and they'll get this incredible prayer experience with recollection or something, and practicing his presence with the two ladies I work with. And all of a sudden, the ladies go, "You need to go see Mike. I need a male person to teach you how to do this recollection stuff." And it's like, oh, okay. All right, let's go. Here we go. Let's learn about this. But recollection is still powerful today, and it's done. I use it in counseling quite a bit. I use people to connect with the presence of God to receive healing. And there's some books out by Leanne Payne. There's some good stuff. I was having a sidebar conversation one day with somebody who had same-sex attraction, and they had the Leanne Payne book, Healing the Broken Image, right? And so this guy was talking to me, he goes, wow, he goes, this Leanne Payne book's great. And I go, yeah, all her stuff's great. And we're talking about the prayer he was reading. He goes, but I keep reading this prayer and nothing's happening like it's happening with Leanne Payne, and she talked about during her sessions. And I go, oh, well, Leanne Payne didn't believe in methodology in prayer. I know you're supposed to read this like you're talking about, that prayer for healing, but she practiced his presence. She brought Jesus' presence in first before she read that. And he's kind of looking kind of funny. And so we worked through, how do you bring his presence, recollection? How do you practice that? And we use it in counseling a lot, right? Christian counseling. Bring the presence of God, because God's the one that heals. Not only is it, if you're having problems going on, go practice your recollection, practice his presence, bring it in. Having a very bad day, or I'm very emotionally hurt right now, or I'm trying to go through something horrible, or I'm dealing with dissociation with parts. Practice his presence, bring Jesus in, learn how to bring him in. And like I said, it's this stuff is still important today. I don't know. It had to be the enemy to push this out back in the 60s. I think all churches were dealing with this, because Leanne Payne wasn't a Catholic, right? I'm not sure if she was Assembly of God or she was Presbyterian. I'll have to go back and look at her books. But yeah, she wasn't Catholic. So this material pertains to all of us, right? It's not just St. Teresa of Avila, who was a doctor of the church, doctor of prayer for the Catholic Church. It's just, she wrote something so phenomenal. It's like, that is the manuscript, drop the mic, right? I know Chris Vallotton and Bill Johnson, these guys try to imitate her and don't give her credit. I know a lot of stuff came out of John Paul Jackson. He would quote her a lot, but he wouldn't give her credit too. But this stuff is relevant now, but treat it with a fine-tooth spoon, right? Don't go off the deep end with it. All it is just kind of a side book to help you as you pray through the Bible. As you meditate, it's just when you practice his presence, it's all subtle, And we're going to talk about some crazy stuff that St. Teresa experienced down the road, but she calls these 6th and 7th mansions, right? Not a lot of people get there with that, and not a lot of people experience what she experienced. But we shall discuss it. So for right now, so that's all I have for you guys. Again, I appreciate the people that donated the money so we can get better microphones and better soundboard, and we did upgrade the computer. So we start doing some better stuff here, because I'm going to start cranking out more material for you guys. There's some exciting stuff happening on the sidebar too that I'll probably be able to share when the time's right. That's kind of cool going on regarding some more training. But like I said, if you want to follow along on the video and catch Mike, a lot of people say I have a face for broadcasting. You'll catch it right there on my YouTube channel. It's under Michael Norton. And go to a field guide to spiritualwarfare.blogspot.com. That's the hosting blog that hosts where the podcasts are and where the videos are. And again, I thank you very much. And again, if you guys are going to join in on a field guide to advanced spiritual warfare, I recommend you pick up the book off of field guide to spiritualwarfare.blogspot.com. I'm going to go through that. And that's the other two hot things I got going on right now for the blog. And that's enough effort. So I want to finish off with St. Teresa, what we got. Fourth Mansions Chapter 3 coming up on infused recollection. That's where God shows up. He really showed up, right? That's what we're going to talk about. God really showed up. He's going to come to us in recollection, in his presence, and just show up. That's part of the stuff we're dealing with here. So you guys are amazing. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being this amazing audience. And like I said, if you have questions about this, send them to the Field Guide to Spiritual Warfare at blogspot.com comment section, and I'll answer questions, or you can go find us on the Facebook page as well. Ask questions there. That is that. And God bless you guys. Have a good one. Stay safe out there. You can see I saw my quarantine haircut, man. It's getting very curly. A lot of people look at me going, wow, you have curls and locks. I go, yeah, I used to cut all my hair off. So it's getting just a little bit trimmed now, so not so wavy. I'm going to wear it long, man. Get my Samson hair going from Spiritual Warfare. God bless. Good night from the M16 bunker, man.